The existential blind spot. There is a core flaw in the way we approach thinking in the modern world. We are obsessed with consistency. We believe wholly that our internal truth is aligned perfectly with the world and that it exists as some set of perfectly ordered facts. And we can just observe and understand reality as such. And this is due to science underpinning the entirety of our conceptual space, like some godlike tool capable of being able to understand. And not only that, but being able to create. And despite this, there are still, contradictions within. There are Newtonian and Einsteinian physics. There are real and imaginary numbers, and there are infinites and infinitesimals. And so, on an intuitional level, even if these align in the science world, they don't feel natural. And this is because reality for us is messy. More specifically, the way we experience it is not as a set of facts, but often as between opposing forces. Things like debate and intellectual growth and personal evolution. And even the mundane, shopping, making friends, just parenting, they all have this friction between opposing forces that are coexisting at the same time, intermingling of sorts. But what's happened is that we've trained our brains unconsciously to rationalize these contradictions into a smooth, seamless narrative. So if our internal truth is aligned, we project this to the outside world. But that is an existential failure. Exactly like Sisyphus here, eternally damned to push this boulder up the mountain. But if only he realized that the mountain simply doesn't exist. In fact, he's on this Mobius strip of sorts. No matter how hard he tries to push the mountain up, he will never reach it. And it's because he's failed to ask himself one simple question. Does the top of the mountain even exist? A child's tantrum. We should not want or need a PhD in philosophy to see all this. It can be as simple as a child throwing a tantrum. As a parent, the goal is simple. Don't harm them, make them happy. You want to cultivate a better human being. But achieving that goal looks entirely different. It has boundaries, it has strict bedtimes, it has denying them candy. It involves spanking, shaming, guilting. We force them to do the work before they can take pleasure of sorts. Eat your broccoli or you don't get chocolate ice cream. We can tell internally that if they eat the ice cream first, they're just not going to eat the broccoli. I mean, hell, even as an adult, I don't know how much I'm in the mood to eat broccoli after eating chocolate ice cream. And you can see if it's pleasure first, then maybe some work, but more likely no work at all. I mean, for me personally, like if I see a child throwing a tantrum, a toddler, the inner dad activates and I just want to put them in the bathroom. Just leave them here and close the door and say, here, you can finish it here. And to me, that's the right amount of no one cares about this. If I'm not going to put up with it, who else do you think is going to put up with it? And it's just sort of a funny way of doing it. Just like, just go over here, without getting under my skin but also, kind of putting down the letter of the law. And this parenting dynamic, it forms this micro paradox. It's being cruel to be kind, being mean to be nice, doing wrong to do right of a sorts. Because in their mind, you're being mean, you're being cruel, but it's not really that. It's parenting, it's disciplining. But we don't want to talk about only the silly examples. We want to talk about those on the highest order, the most important of all the paradoxes. Democracy. The Liberal Schism. If we look at the progressive narrative, the call to action is simple. It's all hands on deck, right? The push for expanded voter rights, automatic registration, eliminating voter ID laws, implementing universal mail-in ballots. There is this belief that the system is pure. The average person is fundamentally capable of making decisive, impactful choices. The collective will of the masses is inherently good. They want to abolish the Electoral College, trusting the popular vote. They call themselves the party of democracy. Yet on the other hand, there is this heralding of experts and elites and scientists of these fields that they should give deference and trust these people and what they say is correct. There's a very clear split in this thinking that somehow the average person is able to parse through the immense amount of decisions rather than making their own personal subjective decision and selecting someone who's an expert, someone who's able to tell the difference, someone who isn't susceptible to all the sorts of criticisms that the left has of the right, demagogues, the zealots, the ideologues. No. We hold the truths. And it becomes so clear when you see this split why anybody who disagrees with the liberal project as uneducated bigots, because they don't trust the elites. They don't believe what you believe, which is whatever the elites say. It's this strange dynamic, this trusting the voter, unless they disagree, of course. The conservative contradiction. Now, if we move to the other side, the conservatives treat democracy like a jaded lover of sorts. They can't live without it, but they can't let it forget all of its sins, all the little things it did wrong. The conservatives want to be the ultimate defenders of constitution and rule of law, but then dismiss it as a rule, reminding everybody every single election cycle, we are a republic, not a democracy. There is this strange praise of anti-democratic norms globally, making nods to oligarchy or strongmen efficiencies. There's this kind of open sentiment of restricting the voting base to the most trustworthy. We need voter IDs, ending birthright citizenship, voting in person, recounts. And we can see how, where the left is seduced by their elites, the right kind of brutally demands compliance. They don't want lawyers. They don't want deal makers. They don't want scientists or whatever. They want true believers. They demand communion from their leaders and more even. And if necessary, and if they say so, to prostrate themselves before the people. It's this skepticism of every single authority, media, academia, these godless experts. Yet they constantly pray for this elite savior to rescue them and save the system from itself? I guess so. It has to be saved from something. The layered mind. It's incredibly easy to look at both sides and just wave them off as hypocrites. But this misses the point entirely. This isn't about logical thinking, this is about reasonable thinking. Humans operate at multiple levels of existence, of multiple frameworks. We rationalize and scale and contextualize on scale, unconsciously so, but still. You can think of it like if you're on a sports team and there's multiple positions, you don't play offense the same way you play defense. And even then, there's different ways to play offense and defense. Or driving. If you're driving a massive 18-wheeler versus a sports car, your speed is different. Your tailgating is different. Your lane choices are different. In all of these kind of split-second decisions and realizations, our brain makes subconscious calculations in an instant to deal with these kind of counterintuitive dynamics. Because frankly, the world doesn't just ask it of us, it demands it of us. You may want to criticize this thinking, so let's criticize it. You may want to think that, well, this is just abstract thinking when it comes to democracy and all these ideas. Yes, it's abstract, but it only makes it more malleable, more moldable. It just turns it into more of an art than a science. You may say, Cherd, people change their minds, though. I mean, yes, people change their minds, but through deep thought. It's strenuous, it's tortuous sometimes. And it's not something that happens instantaneously. And if it is something that happens quick, it's people of character, people who have spent time trying to attain some level of humility and respect for the world and ideas and for all these different frameworks. It's not something applicable to the general populace, the voting public on a nationwide scale. And I mean, and on the other side too, if they're just plastic bags in the wind, they will weigh their will to whoever pushes them around. And I mean, obviously these people never really had any morals or ideas to begin with, if you can be convinced so easily. You might think, you're forgetting reason is inherently logical. This is just experientially not true. To grieve is reasonable. To laugh is reasonable. To be angry or to defend yourself is reasonable. To love, to fight for your country and home. These are all reasonable things. No one would say they're not. It's just none of these are logical patterns of thought. These are not logical evaluations. And if we understood the world through these strictly logical structures, there would be no need for any kind of human element, no need for art, no need for democracy, right? We would just project the optimal solution into the world, and our Borg mindset would adopt it wholly, without question. We would be calculators of sorts, evaluating the gradient and forcing everything into these binaries. There is no human element in that world. That world is just fundamentally unrecognizable. Paradoxical reality. As I've said before, our brains are hardwired for this tension of sorts. We exist precisely in the middle of it, between the radical extremes, the minuscule and the massive, right? Our morality is gray. Our starting intuitions is uncertainty. Our entire lives are spent balancing what is knowable and unknowable. When people try to live decisively in one camp, I mean, there's this sense that the universe will laugh at them. Right? It does not bend to their will. It actively reacts against them. For every new atheist, a new fundamentalist, for every Democrat a new Republican, for every daredevil a recluse, for every mute a comedian, right? It attacks this absolute certainty. So when we return to our pinnacle example of democracy, these bizarre behaviors, they begin to make sense. They begin to become reasonable. It's just sort of our individual humanity trying to deal with this paradox. It's why conservatives can venerate the founding fathers and then begin praising authoritarian leaders. It's why liberals provide so much trust for scientific authorities while aggressively attacking corporate leaders, and obviously conservatives doing the reverse of that, right? And just the left is still rationalizing Kamala Harris taking the Democratic ticket. So when we take a moment to pause and look at this, we shouldn't be trying to form all of these paradoxes and logical inconsistencies into one cohesive narrative, right? The goal isn't to eliminate them. The goal is to learn how to live with them. So maybe one day, not forever, but at least for some time, to gain peace, Sisyphus might just realize that he doesn't need to push the boulder anymore. He can just stop and sit down and enjoy the mountain for once. Hopefully you guys learned something. I know I did. Remember to like, subscribe if you like. I'll catch you guys in the next one.